having arrived, I'll call the Community and Economic Development Authority to order. The next item on our agenda is the roll call.
How do I know if my mic's on? Is my mic on? Can you hear me?
Joyce, if you...
My mic.
George, can you activate Joyce's mic?
Hello? Hello? Yeah. Can you hear me now? Yes, ma'am. Perfect. Thank you, George. Arata Frada?
Yeah.
Cleary?
Here.
Gallus Veas? I think Norma?
Here.
Sorry. Hamilton?
Here.
Hardy?
Here.
Potts?
Here.
Wheeler? We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is election of a chairman. This is, I guess, a redo from the prior meeting where we did not have a second on the election of a chair. So just to get the record straight, we should do this properly.
Do we need to do the motion or we need to second?
I think we need a motion and a second.
So I nominate Andy Potts for chair of SIDA.
Second.
Okay. Are there any further nominations from the floor? Seeing none, I'll close the nominations. Voting on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That item is approved. Item number 4 is approval of the April 22nd, 2021 minutes. Those were sent out in your packet. Is there a motion?
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
Dan, did you second that?
I second it.
Oh, Mr. Wheeler, sorry.
I believe Norma seconded.
I'm trying to figure out everybody's voice here. Sorry about that.
Okay. Seeing no discussion on the minutes, all those in favor of approval will signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. Item number 5, public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't believe we had any slips turned in. Is there anybody in the council chambers who wish to speak on a non-agenda item?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 6, which is resolutions and ordinances. We have none. And then item number 7, H&A housing survey results, Mike Harrigan and Stephen Affelbacher. And I will turn it over to Mike or Stephen.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everybody. Great to be back with you, and I wanted to do just a little bit of an introduction to explain what it is that we've done, and to put this into some context relative to the overall work that you've engaged us to help you with. Today, we're here to talk about the results of the survey that we conducted, the purpose of which was to attempt to review some of the data points, the metrics, if you will, that are important to the design of the workforce housing program that we're developing within the context of our engagement. And to do that, we put together in a draft form with the staff a group of questions that were intended to obtain from all of you folks on the committee, the Community and Economic Development Committee, the City Council, and the Housing Committee, some consensus around the type of product and the offerings that we would at least initially attempt to secure with the project we are undertaking. And so we sent that out to 30 individuals, all told. And I'm pleased to tell you that we got 70% participation. 21 of you responded. Thank you very much for that, because it provided, I think, very valuable and helpful guidance. And we wanted to share the results of these questions with you today. And so, knowing that you've got plenty on your agenda, we want to go ahead and get through this. So I'm going to share my screen on this, and then Steve Affelbacher and I will go through. We provided you with two documents, I believe, that were a part of your packet. One was a executive summary that listed the questions on the left side in a somewhat of a grid form, and then the response on the right side in summary form for each question. This is a little more detailed. We'll flip through these slides and just talk about each question, and then make reference to the summary sheet as well. When we wrap it up, our intent is to talk about where we're going to go from here. We're in the throes of discussing timeline with the staff, but we're sensitive to the idea of having as much work as we can have done in advance of your budgeting process, so that any conclusions that come out that could have any budgetary impact could be taken into consideration by the city. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and launch into the discussion here. And the first question that you see on the screen here was attempting to get at what type of product we have to be striving for. In our initial sample that we had provided you a little bit of a sense of, based upon the model, we were using a townhouse product, but we wanted to not exclude other options that were available. And so we asked the respondents to rank from 1 to 5, with 1 being highest priority, which type of product you thought we could be starting with in this type of initiative. And the results came back with 62% of the respondents, their first choice was the townhouse type product. Overall, from a scoring standpoint, the townhouse product again came up to the top. Taking into consideration first, second, and third choices, the duplex new was probably second, and then the single family existing rehab, and then single family new, and then the multi-family as a result. So in this case, the townhouse was the favored type of product to begin with our modeling. Second question was the size, how many square feet in terms of the target would be appropriate to begin with. And here, out of the 21 respondents, 16 came back with the first choice being 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. And this fits well within what we think is manageable from a cost standpoint. I think we were in our model using a 1,200 square foot product, so this falls well within that range. Bathrooms per unit, 2 bath was the preferred number of responses, with 12 out of the 21, that being their first choice, and with a family arrangement that is something that would be appropriate for consideration. Steve and I are just going to tag team these so that you don't get bored listening to me talk through this whole thing. So Steve, you want to take the next 3?
Sure. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. As Mike has indicated, we're really using this survey then to develop the profile that we're going to test in our financial model. So that's why the answer to these questions are very important. Another part of that then was the number of bedrooms per unit. And clearly you'll see on this slide that 71% favor 3 bedrooms as a part of the product. And as Mike indicated, our original test or assumption is that we'd be in that 1,200 square foot range. You know, a 3-bedroom unit is going to be in that 1,250, 1,275 range. So I think that's pretty consistent with what our initial model was, and that we'll use this then for direction as we begin to refine and develop that profile. So Mike, next one. The next one was the number of garages that was there, and you'll see that clearly. You know, the 2-car attached garage was by 57% of the respondents. We didn't have 1.5-car garages. Should there be a budget crunch, that may be something we'd look at, but there was a real preference for 2 cars stalls in terms of building that into the product. Mike? Next was the area of interior finishes, and you'll see that clearly there was a preference for the medium standard there. We had defined that then as, you know, upgraded countertops, hardwood floors, and basic appliances that were part of that. So it's at least it's in the middle of the pack as far as finishes would be identified in the assumption that we'll make. Mike, you want to take the next 3?
So from an exterior appearance and the aesthetics of the outside, we know that Fitchburg, from my prior history and just knowledge of the community, there's high sensitivity to the maintenance of the appearance and the quality of the units. Here, the consensus in terms of the committee was that there could be some compromising here relative to the exterior with not requiring all masonry, but more of a composite type of siding product with your basic window structure would be acceptable as a first choice for consideration here. Obviously, to the extent that there could be some additional design elements introduced into the plan based upon final costs, that can and would be considered. Height can be a concern. Here, the 2-story was clearly the preferred option. A few folks felt 3-story and one less, but strong consensus pretty much on a 2-story product. This was probably our most challenging question here, both in terms of question design and ultimately interpretation. This is the one that asked about the targeted constituency, if you will, the audience to which this program would be most strongly directed. And in our modeling, we had utilized, when we presented you with the sample, the 80 to 100% of median income as being the target population for this, primarily because in general, that segment, well, 2 reasons. One is that segment has been identified not in all circles, but in probably most circles as being the quote definition of workforce housing related constituency. That combined with the fact that there are other programs that are directly intended to serve residents in the lower categories. For example, the low-income housing tax credit program particularly targets the 60% range, and obviously Section 8 and other programs are targeting even lower there, but there aren't as many that are targeting, if any, that are targeting the 80 to 100 to 120%. So the problem we had with this one, and it was not the fault of respondents, it was probably the fault of the the question. It wasn't clear enough. Respondents were asked to indicate what they felt would be a good distribution of this within a project or within the overall program. And in terms of the percentage distribution of these various income levels. And we needed to have those answers add up to 100%. So for example, respondent number 1 here stated that 20% they felt should be within the 80 to 100% category, 50% should be within the 60 to 80 category, and 30% should be below 60. And the 3 of those add up to 100%. The ones that I've highlighted here in yellow, respondents 9 through 13 and respondent 15. The problem with that one is that their original responses added up to more than 100%. And so that made it difficult to validate the end result. What we ended up having to do is recast those to be an attempt to be faithful to what we thought their intent was in terms of the distribution, but to still keep it within 100%. So recognizing that occurred, we ended up with a result which showed that 48. The consensus here was that the most of the units ought to be dedicated to the 80 to 100%, with some distribution below that, 48% in the 80 to 100, 35% in the 60 to 80, and 16% below 60. In general, the first effort here, the first undertaking is one that actually could end up being a hybrid, and this will be part of the ultimate discussion that the CEDA and the council will want to have. But it would be our suggestion and recommendation that we start with the 80 to 120 as being the target. And then if the committee desired to have a unit or units that would serve a lower segment than that, we would model that and identify how that could impact the required city participation. Because the lower you go in terms of the income, the greater the gap will be that will need to be filled by the community in relationship to that equity down payment in order to get to the 30% income levels that we're looking to allow people to live within in order to have a reasonable housing cost. Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. This next question was put in to provide some direction. What in the event of the budget comes in and it doesn't work, what do we need to do to make adjustments in the project? And you'll see the results starting from the one that says this is the one to look at first would be, if you're looking at the graph there, number of stories. The second area would be to look at exterior construction. Third would be level of finishes interior. Garages came in the fourth one to look at in the event that we needed to make an adjustment in cost. Number of bedrooms was fifth, unit size sixth, and there should be number of bathrooms was fifth, total unit size was fifth, and sixth, last was the bedrooms. And I think clearly there was a bias to having 3 bedrooms in this particular development that would be underway. And so that would be the last on the list to be adjusted. Certainly, if there are any adjustments made, we'd be coming back with CEDA to talk about that more, but this at least provides us with some initial direction to look at so as we do the modeling to see what would work. Next was the issue of cost. Clearly, there was a consensus that this unit price be in the 225,000 to 265 range. 67% responded in that manner. Certainly, as we've all seen the cost of lumber and construction, we're concerned as to where that is today, given today's prices. Hopefully, they're not going to hold, but that'll be at least the area that we attempt to work with the budgeting model. Next then, Mike, would be on the list, the issue of possible sites. And I think in this case, as you read through the various responses there generally was a consensus that the area of North Fish Hatchery Road and land to be annexed would be the best site or potential site for this particular development. So that's the response of that question. Mike, on possible builders?
Yeah, I'm going to flip to the executive summary sheet. I think it just is, for these open-ended questions, they give a little more concise outline of the response. But you have the sheet that gives every detailed response that we got. We summarize those here in the executive summary. So this was very helpful to get the names of folks that are active in your market that we can use or hope to use as part of our next steps in reaching out to get their experiences with actual costs, a reaction to this particular building product that we now have identified in the market, and to see what to take the temperature really of some of these folks in terms of their interest in partnering with the community potentially as a builder of a product that would be a part of the program. From a management company standpoint, the companies listed here are all active and participating in the market in your area and region. They're folks that we would also be talking to gauge their interest and then also to get their sense of cost, the range of cost, if not a detailed cost, certainly a range of cost that they might expect and that we would be able to use for a budget specific to this. We had numbers that we had estimated from conversations we had with other folks in the Metro Milwaukee area when we did our modeling, but we need to make this more specific to Fitchburg here and make sure that we have a real check on what those costs would be and interest again. We've had some conversations with the staff. We got input here on other potential partners that may be resources and or not just for information, but also as financial partners in some of this. And I think that these are individuals that we want to, at minimum, make aware of the undertakings that Fitchburg is considering, and to try by doing so, open the door to a possible partnership with any of them that would have an interest in being more actively engaged in the undertaking. The general comments section, I think, were very helpful. Folks, talked about, again, the 80 to 120%, indicating we should be focused on that range. There was some conversation about details of some of the questions that were asked. I think in general, just to dispel any concern, if there is concern about the questionnaire locking you in too much to any one specific product or type, I think that really isn't the intent of the questionnaire. The questionnaires intent was really to provide, to narrow down and give us a stronger sense of direction as to what might be acceptable, with the understanding that as we go through the numbers and the metrics, the actual math of this, and begin to get a project more specifically outlined and set forth, we'll be coming back to the committee, to CETA and looking for further direction on these things. And I think there'll be other opportunities to explore more specific aspects of each one of the design features and policy considerations as we get closer to the finish line on this thing. So,
Mike, can I just add on one of the responses there? There was talking about consideration of a land trust option, and I think just for the committee's background, I think that's a broader discussion that we need to have somewhere down the road, and that's that discussion of is the development developed and then it's open market. In other words, the individuals that buy that continue to sell it whenever they want down the road, or is there a desire by CETA that this project end up being somehow affordable for workforce housing in the future? And if it is, then what do you do in terms of tying the hands of that owner for sale in the future? This is just a broader discussion to say, philosophically, is that something we want to accomplish since we're developing this project and want it to be available for affordable housing in the future? If that's the case, then there are a number of options that the committee that CETA could talk about, which would be, are there covenants? Are there land trusts? Is there ownership of the land by the CDA? Does that continue that has an impact then as those units get priced for resale in the future? So, Mike, I just wanted to mention that people start to think about that in terms of ultimately, what are the sale documents going to look like, and what do we need to include in that? Nothing, or should there be something included that makes it available for affordable housing in the future?
thank you, Steve. And so, in summary, the way I would wrap up and provide, if I were asked to give a 2-minute summary of what the survey consensuses were on product here, I would say that what you're looking at is a product that has the 2-story, 2-car, new townhouse style construction of approximately 1,250 square feet. That would include 2 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms with composite siding, a basic window framing and structure, upgraded internal counter space, but not the top end granite or what have you. And we would include hardwood flooring. We would include basic appliances, not stainless. We would be trying to stay with, if possible, and this will be the challenge, of course, particularly as Steve mentioned, given today's costs in the $225,000 to $265,000 price range. The area, which is still yet to be determined, but the area that most frequently was mentioned by the respondents in the survey is the area of North Fish Hatchery Road, and in terms of location. And the initial target would be the group in the 80 to 100% of median Dane County family income for a 3-person household. So that's what we drew from the results and the responses that you all provided to us. And unless you think that that's inconsistent with what the committee would like to at least initially have pursued, that would be the type of initial product that we would do the financial analysis around. Not that it can't be modified as we go, but that would be our starting point, those types of features. As we talk about our timing and as we talk about the next steps that are to be undertaken as part of our work. I mentioned that we want to be sensitive to your meeting schedules and also to your other processes that are ongoing, such as the budgeting process. And so with that in mind, our intention will be to noodle with Mike Zimmerman and Joyce to get a timetable that works for all of you. Our desire is to come back to the Community and Economic Development Authority relatively soon with a draft financial model that's specific based on this size and this type of product, so that we can begin now to see, given current rates and current data, and after having spoken with, and this is the part that will require us to do our diligence now, between now and when we would appear before you again. We want to have gleaned that cost point data and specifics from the marketplace, and have had conversations with the folks that we mentioned, and then be able to report in a preliminary way to you with a draft financial review, with the understanding that we'd be just looking for reaction at that point, and that we would be finalizing that review as a follow-up to that meeting for purposes of your approval and then ultimate approval of the council. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, we've talked a lot. At this point, I think it's probably appropriate that I turn it back, Steve and I turn it back to you and to the committee, although perhaps Mike or Joyce would like to add something to what we've said as well.
If Mike or Joyce, if you had anything, otherwise, got a list going of people with hands up. One thing I do want to thank you for the clarification on trying not to lock people in on some of the options. I know when I was looking at sort of the interior elements, I think for me, it was sort of that basic appliance was the driving decision point for me, and whether or not it's linoleum versus hardwood was less of a factor for me. So I think kind of moving forward, to the extent that you can break some of those apart and look at maybe mixing and matching some of the different options, I think that would be helpful. But then I've got Mark has his hand up, and then I have Julia after that.
Andy?
Oh, Joyce?
Andy, this is Joyce. So we went through these results, Mike and I, with Mike and Steve. And one thing that Mike and I did kind of talk a little bit about after our conversation is maybe square footage. We felt like maybe the range should be more around the 1,400 square feet for 3 bedrooms, just based upon what, we're looking maybe for a targeted family. So that might be one thing that we can talk about later on. But we were happy, and we appreciate everybody putting their input in. Just an FYI for CETA, at the June 14th Housing Advisory Committee meeting, we are going to have Gary Gorman come and talk about some of the projects that he's working on, not only in Wisconsin, but in different states around the country, with some kind of innovative ideas on some of the things they're doing. So I can let you guys know if you would like to join us to just listen in on that. Otherwise, that will be recorded and you can watch it at your own leisure. So I think that's really all we have to report internally at this time. We're looking forward to working with Mike and Steve on some budgeting things, and then also a little sharper timeline.
Great. Mark?
Sure thing. I'll be very brief. First of all, Mike and Steve, thank you very much for this presentation. I need a reminder on who this document went to. We had 21 responders. Can you quickly answer that?
It went to CETA.
Okay.
It went to the city council. And it went to the Housing Advisory Committee.
Okay,
And
that's
there
great.
And there were, I think, Joyce, perhaps 4 or 5 staff people as well that were invited to respond.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to verify. And then the other thing is just, I guess, the comment under the number 16 at the very end. You don't need to switch back to it, but just what's going on with the housing market now. You mentioned one survey respondent mentioned the costs may be way out of whack. I'm hearing from people who work in this industry right now, you can't even get materials. And I don't know how long that's going to be before those logistics catch up. I can give you an auto example. It took 6 weeks for me to get a part in on my car. And no, I'm not kidding. And I think the construction industry is just as bad. The cost as well as the availability. So as you work this through, CETA and these developers got to be aware of what's going on and when is the timing right versus to kind of hold a while. So I just think that last comment at the end of the survey is very appropriate. And I just want to kind of bring that up again. I'm not an expert in that area, but I just think it concerns me. So thank you.
Yep.
Can I just add that we did send it out to the Plan Commission as well, because they do see a lot of things coming before them, and we thought that they would be a good resource as well. So they also were included in the survey.
Leah?
Oh, me? Okay. So thank you, Mike and Steve, for this, for coming today, and I'm really excited about this housing pilot. One of the things that I would like to, maybe I forgot to add, in item number 15, when we talk about possible development partners, I don't know if we can add a CEDA, because we have housing authority and we can issue bonds that they are double tax exempt, that they are very, attractive for some investors. And then I would like to see, I like the summary. I think I agree with most of what you say, but I would like to see also your target is 80 to 100. I would like to see 60 to 80% of the median too, to have some component or elements or some, because I think this is the target population that also is a struggle to get access to housing, or ownership. And the other thing that maybe will be, you already are done with the survey, but the other thing that a question that maybe when I was doing the survey, when one of the questions should be, in which school district do you want this to be, this housing option be developed? Because we have, 3 school districts and, and some school districts in our area are saturated, like Leopold School are already a capacity. So, but what about putting the housing in the Oregon School District or the Verona School District? They have more capacity. So that one are the things that, my comment.
Very helpful, thank you.
Okay. Was there anyone else who had a question or a comment about the survey results? All right. Well, thank you very much for appearing, joining us early this morning and dealing with our technical difficulties.
No problem. We appreciate the opportunity to share our results, and we look forward to following through on it and getting back to you soon with something you can sink your teeth into, even a little more.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Okay, we are now on to item number 8, which is our Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative report. And I'll turn that over.
Can I share can I share my screen? Who's there, Scott? Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay, so I'm gonna go, I am not gonna go through the whole presentation. I'm gonna go to the couple of slides. So as you know that the under CEDA is the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative is under the umbrella of CEDA. And every year we go through what we call the grant review process, where we award a couple of grants. We usually budget $50,000 every year in our budget. But we have noticed in the last couple of years that there are more people interested in this not-for-profit organization interested in this grant program. So the first thing that I want to mention is that we have a very good system in place that the first step that we do is the city staff review and make all the recommendation based on application review form and Healthy Neighborhood Initiative big picture. So this is what we do. We have a very good application form, very complete, and then Wade Thompson is in charge of this grant, this initiative, and then they review all the application form and they recommend to the Healthy Neighborhood Review Committee. So we review those. I am part of that committee, and we review all the application that the staff recommend to us, and then we decided which one move forward. And then the next step is we go through Common Council to review and make the funding award at their discretion. And then after council approve, we have the funding award announced. So these one are the basic steps. So you know that we have a very good, robust and transparent process. As you know, we are the area where we are working are the Verona Road West, the Belmar Renaissance on the Park, and the North Fish Hatchery Road are the priority neighborhood for this grant initiative. So in April 2021, after the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative Grant Review Committee met, we recommend the council to approve. We received 13 grant applications for a total of $173,000, and we have only $63,000 available. So as you know, is for us as a committee, it's very hard to say no because they are a very good project and initiative that they come through the city, but we don't have the funds. At the end, we recommended 7 applications for funding. That it was, that we were recommended to the council. So the 7, I am not going to go through all of that. So we recommend about 5 applications to the Verona Road West, 5 to the Belmar Renaissance on the Park, and 8 applications that came, this is our old application, through the North Fish Hatchery Road. There was an application that we didn't accept because they were incomplete, but the complete application were in total 13, and we recommend 7. The 7 that we recommend to council and they were approved were Badger Prairie Needs in total of $7,500, Big Brother and Big Sister of Dane County, Boys and Girls Club of Dane County, Deer Dairy, Latino Academy of Workforce Development, Little John, and 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin. So this one were the not-for-profit that they are going to be working this year in the 3 priority neighborhoods. So if you want more detailed information about this, I can send you this slideshow. So that's it.
I guess my question that I'm familiar with quite familiar with most of the awardees, but the Dear Diary I'm not particularly familiar with. I don't know if you just had
Yeah,
a
let me
little bit on
see.
that or.
Yeah, we have it. 1 second. 1 second. So it focuses in youth mentoring, Black female youth programming, and activity and workshop. It's one of the new ones that we accepted this year.
Okay, thank you. I'll have to do some more reading on that one.
Yeah. And the other new one that for this year is Little John's, that you know is a not-for-profit that is going to be located in the west side of Verona Road. It's part of Liliana Restaurant Group,
Yep,
but it's a not-for-profit organization.
Yep, I've heard Dave Heidi's pitch quite a few times. So
Okay.
that one I was familiar with.
Okay.
Julia, this is Joyce. Would you mind just sending me the PowerPoint and then I can share it with CETA members?
Okay.
Thank you.
So, and then the next step is the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative. We are planning to meet that maybe at the end of June. So we are going to review the activity of the 2020 not-for-profit organization that they were award money in last year. So they usually present us like an annual report. So to determine what they did with the money that we provide them and the result. And usually we invite some of those not-for-profit organizations to a committee of the whole to do a presentation. We do it every year. And what else? And we are thinking also, one of the other recommendations, because the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative is not like a formal commission, we are trying to determine how to make this committee more formal. And we are talking to the mayor, and the idea is to maybe to determine increase the number of people in the committee because there is a lot of interest. Usually the people that they are in this committee that represent the 3 high priority neighborhood. And one alder that in my case is assigned by 2 alders, one nominated by the mayor and the other one by CETA. It could be an alder or it could be a member of CETA.
That was going to be my question for Joyce or Mike. I believe this is an action item that we would need to. Do we need to reappoint our representative?
Julia asked that this be formalized at CETA, so I put it on the agenda. Okay. So yes, I would say that we need a nomination and approval.
Yeah, and this is so, and I would like to to continue working in the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative because I have very involved working in one of the high priority neighborhoods with some other projects. I would like to see the member to, if they can nominate me again for another year.
Right.
So, Andy, are you looking for a motion?
I am.
Okay, I would make the motion that we nominate Julia Radafrada as the representative for another year.
Second.
I second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? See none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Julia,
And then,
I'm sorry,
we'll keep
Andy.
it with you on the Forward Fitchburg Business Boost.
Andy, it's Joyce. I have a
Yes.
quick question for Julia. Are you guys doing any investigation about Town of Madison and bringing that neighborhood into healthy neighborhoods? Has there been any discussion on that?
Can you discuss can you repeat again, Joyce? I cannot hear you very well.
I'm just asking if you guys are looking at the Southdale neighborhood for healthy neighborhoods and kind of what you're doing to prepare for that.
Yeah, so in our last meeting in December, and we have another meeting in April. So we are starting, there is another neighborhood, it's called the Southdale, that is gonna be part of the town of Madison, that the city is gonna next year. So it's part of our this year discussion, how we are gonna incorporate that new neighborhood in the committee. This is what is important, that we need to formalize this committee and determine the composition, because we will need to have also, representation of those areas too. So yes, we are working on that.
So just a little FYI for your group, they have at one time they had a pretty good neighborhood association, so it might be worth it to just maybe set up a meeting with them. Because in the past, I've worked with them on a couple little things, so.
Can you send that information to me and Wade to see what is the name of that neighborhood association?
Sure.
I have received a couple of emails from social workers that they work in that area, and they are they knew about this Healthy Neighborhood Initiative, and they already outreaching to us to determine, what is the plan of the city in working in that area after the annexation. So I know that there are some interest there. Yes. So.
All right. Any other questions on healthy neighborhoods? Okay, now we will move on to the Ford Fitchburg Biz Boost program.
So my question about this is, I wanted to put it in the agenda, is because I see maybe we should discuss if we should continue with this, the loan process, or we should change it to a grant. I know there are, according to the last report that we got yesterday from the room tax, there is still $109,000 sitting in that fund. It's more like a question, a discussion to all of you. What is your perception or your thought about if we should do something, or because it was brought to my attention that the city of Fitchburg didn't do too much for the very, very small businesses, especially business owned by minority people, and also when I talked to a couple of in my district of business owner to apply for this last year, they say no, it's a loan, I don't want to apply because it's too much work. It's a loan. They were getting funding from Dane County or from other organizations. So I am bringing this to your attention only for discussion, to sense what do you think. That's all.
I guess one quick question on kind of the parameter of it. Were you thinking, I guess, a grant sort of for like revenue loss, or more for like costs incurred as a result of the pandemic?
Well, they are related. So one thing is related to the other one. So yeah, they are the parameter of the requirement. They are, it can set up, most of the grants that are out there are, they are to supplement the lost revenue or the new expenses that you need to incur to accommodate to the new regulation or about COVID and all of that. But yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm kind of curious, because in my day job, dealing a lot with like the CARES Act and ARPA funds, and trying to differentiate, are we providing funding that is, I guess, supplementing lost revenue, or are we trying to reimburse for expenses that are above and beyond what would have been budgeted for, sort of when the year started?
Yeah, it's all open to discussion.
Sure. guess were there any thoughts on how we proceed? Anyone wishing to speak?
Mine's just more of an observation, Andy. So Julia, as you're proposing this, it would move from a loan to a grant. Is that correct?
I am not proposing anything. I am
Oh,
bringing
okay,
to
okay.
discussion what are,
Okay.
I would like to have your input, guys,
Okay.
about what do you think about this? We can continue doing the loan, or we can or we can do something different, like a grant. It could be like I don't know, a small grant, like $5,000 or $10,000. You know what I mean? I don't know. But it's up to us, you know. If or we can say, you know what? No, we don't. We are not gonna do anything. We did it last year. We're fine. You know, you know what I mean. So, but I would like to, because it was brought to my attention that by an organization that, you know, that we were not doing enough for our small businesses in Fitchburg, especially minority businesses.
Okay. I guess I was just concerned if I got a loan earlier on in the program and I forgot how many received them and it moves to grants, how I'm going to feel about that if I'm paying a loan back versus getting a grant later down the road. But I think that's just an observation. Another idea is, do you just put a part B into the program that says you can also apply for a smaller based grant? So it's being modified. Just an idea, because you don't want to anger or upset the people that did go through the process and are paying this back, even though it's a very low interest loan. So just an observation, but I understand taking care of the very small businesses too. So I don't know. See what the other colleagues think about it.
What was the balance remaining?
It's like 109,000, close to 110 there.
And remind me again the genesis of the money. I guess I'm just trying to
Yep.
determine where would it go. Was this like lapsing back to the general fund, or
No,
would it
this
end up
is-
if it's not spent?
Sure, this was actually out of the revolving loan fund that we capitalized originally back in the day through tax increment district number 3 as a TID eligible item, which was a grant to the city to establish and capitalize a revolving loan fund. And I've been around long enough, I can give the history here that Fitchburg, we're not an entitlement community here, so a lot of the traditional sources of revolving loan fund programs we were never eligible for. So we worked with Mike Harrigan, who was just on previously when he was our financial advisor at Ellers, to come up with a program and to capitalize a revolving loan fund through kind of a unique source. So when we were first talking about the Business Boost program, we had conversations not only as staff, but I know with CETA members that, would we do grants or would we do loans? We decided on low interest loans from the standpoint of we don't necessarily have a regular source to replenish the revolving loan fund program. So if we did it as a grant, it would be one and done, kind of out the door, and then it would deplete our traditional revolving loan fund program. We had also discussed as staff here that there were other sources of actual grant money that were coming via the federal government for COVID pandemic relief. And that was flowing from the federal government down to the state. And as you know, then through Dane County, and then Dane County allocated grant money that was administered through multiple rounds through the Dane Buy Local program there to really focus on, the small businesses and the local businesses in the marketplace here. I would also just mention one of the things I was going to announce today is the application period for the newest round of Wisconsin small business grants opened actually on May 24th and is doing exactly what Julia mentioned. They're grants with flat awards of $5,000 for businesses that have annual gross revenue between $10,000 and $7 million there. So I think we felt that our approach with the loan program served one need, and that grants should really be administered through other sources and other entities and programs there, just again, because of we're not an entitlement community and we don't get an automatic allocation of dollars to establish grant programs. So just offering that perspective.
This is Dan Hardy. I just figured I was on mute the whole
whole meeting here. I don't think we should be giving grants to small businesses. I think they should be loans. A 1% loan is as good as a grant in my estimation. Where are these businesses, Julia, that need the money that never applied? How come they didn't apply? I don't understand. If they have a need, make the application and we can go from there. But I don't think the city of Fitchburg should be in the business of giving money away, taxpayer money away. I think that's wrong.
You asked me a question?
Yeah, I said, where are these businesses that need the money when we had the applications out?
Well, so
I
it's
didn't
depend
see
of,
any.
I will tell you that it's depend, you know, how, maybe they were not aware of the business loan because we need to outreach to them in a different way, you know, to inform them. Could be one. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know the question. You have a good question, but I am, you know, my role, my duty is to bring this comment and this concern that I have, that I heard or they brought to me. I understand your position, but I don't know why they didn't. I am assuming that maybe it could be that we didn't do a good outreach to those type of businesses. Could be one.
Uli, I would just mention specifically, we directly, not only did we do outreach through the Fitchburg Chamber Visitor Business Bureau through multiple kind of venues and social media and communication avenues there, but we also shared the Business Boost program multiple times directly with both the Latino and the Black Chambers of Commerce to ask them to help us get the word out to minority businesses and their members. And that was shared multiple times, you know, through the rounds to get the communication and outreach there to encourage our minority businesses to apply here in Fitchburg.
Hi, this is Jennifer. Just a quick comment. I understand that small businesses are difficult to sustain a business, COVID or not. It is very difficult to run a business, especially if it's minority. One comment is I know that the outreach was a comment of maybe we should do more, but in the end of the day, I do think that information should be retained by the person that's looking for the asset or the money. So I don't know if it would have produced a different result if we did make this as a grant. But the second thing is there are a lot of avenues that people can get additional sources of funding. GoFundMe is another thing. I mean, people have been creative in this pandemic.
The recording has stopped.
Additional funds for the business, but I don't think that making this a grant program, especially with what Mike said about the funding, and this is not we don't get replenished on the funds. I don't think that going to the grant program would make sense for Fitchburg itself.
Hi, this is Norma. Julia, I'm wondering if was it a challenge of having the application being more accessible? Was it, as Jennifer mentioned, because maybe they don't have the capacity to complete that type of paperwork or application? And if that's the case, could we simply, I'm not familiar with that process, but could we make the application more accessible to those small businesses? I guess on my end, I will really like to hear more from them on how can the process be improved, or again, make it more accessible if we cannot make, you know, if we cannot allocate any specific portion of this to a grant funding. And I also wonder, yeah, like Jennifer mentioned, if it will even have, because the process, is it a process barrier or accessibility? I guess before making a decision, more insight will be helpful. Because definitely, I mean, $100,000 is something that businesses could absolutely benefit from. So just.
I think that you make good points, Norma. I think they're very good points. And this is what I say, it's a discussion that we're having, and we can say it doesn't mean that we need to, we can say, we can continue with the loan process, I am not going I am not in favor of one or the other one. I am asking all of you if we can continue with the loan process, or we should be a grant, or maybe we should, if we do the second round, we can maybe review our process and application form, make it easy, simple. Yeah, so they're all good points.
Just to,
Dan again. Well, when we made the loans available, we had guidelines that were established by the council. And those guidelines became the application, that process that the applicants had to fulfill. So if you want to change that, I think that's got to come from the council. I don't think we have the authority to change that.
No, I think they were originated in CEDA, and we recommend the council, this is how the application should look like. I think
Julia, Dan is correct that we would have to go back to the council with a referral and a resolution to either continue or extend or expand or change the program there, because it was under kind of a specific timeline of how long it would continue with the application cycle there. So if CEDA is inclined to do something, it would just have to go back through a formal process with a referral, resolution, and recommendation to the council, not only from a timing standpoint, but any changes to the guidelines and the application process.
To make this meeting short, this discussion short, we should determine if we want to continue with the loan process with the second round or not. That's it. If we say no, that's it. This conversation is over. Because we have a lot of,
Question for Mike Zimmerman is, do we have the capacity to do another round of this?
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Jennifer. Can you repeat the question?
Do we have the capacity to be able to do a second round?
We have, as far as the original 150 that the council had kind of designated towards the Biz Boost program out of the original revolving loan fund, we started with 150. So there's a balance of just shy of 110,000 that we had kind of allocated for the program. And we're in the repayment period now for the 5 loans that were made through the Biz Boost program, and those are 24 equal monthly payments that started January of this year.
I vote to continue on a second round of the loan then.
Yeah, I think that's right. I would be there too, is to continue the loan program if we think there's a demand for it.
Is someone making that an emotion? Can we start over again? So I can see.
Motion, please?
Is that Jennifer?
Yes, I motion to start another round of the Fitchburg Biz Boost loan.
I'll second that.
Sorry, Mark. I think Julia beat you to it, actually.
Oh, I thought Norma had her hand up. Oh, well, I'm getting Zoom fatigue.
We all second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this item?
Just a clarification from a staff perspective here. So it would be a continuation of the program with the current guidelines, or the guidelines that we've been using there, with both the eligibility dollar amounts, and then that they would be still the same payment period as far as the 24 equal monthly payments, and the interest rate, all of that remains the same. It's just re-upping the program to extend the deadline. And how long are you looking to extend that deadline for us to open the application period up until?
I think we should keep it open until December at the end of the year?
I guess I'll look to Jennifer. It was her motion. If that's consistent with.
I'd like to just get reminded of how was it structured last time, I guess.
We had monthly application cycles. They were due on the 15th of each month. It was kind of a rolling application period leading up to the end of December of 2020. And the applications were due the 15th of each month. And then we had our Biz Boost Loan Committee that would review those applications kind of, over the next month and make a determination on the loan application.
That coincides with what Julia's saying on the December cutoff, which I do recommend that we kind of structure it the same way, even with the deadline and the 15th review date.
So the one thing I'm just going to add, that it was contingent upon that this program stayed open until we ran out of funding. So if we get, enough applications that we approve the $100,000 in 1 month, we're done.
That makes sense. If we don't have money, I don't know where we would get money from.
I just have one question for Julia. So are you going to be our PR person on this project?
What do you mean, PR?
Are you going to get out there with a sandwich board and stand out on the street corner letting people know we have this money available?
Yeah, I can do it. I can translate it into Spanish. I can do that with Norma. We can do that.
Okay.
But,
And
hey.
just, there was a couple other things that I just wanted to comment on too about letting people know. We have a COVID page on our website with resources, and that information's out there. And initially, when we launched this program, we went through our business database, and for every business that we had an email address, we actually emailed this out to every single business. So I guess I'm a little sad when I hear that we're guilty of not doing enough outreach, because I feel really bad that I don't know what more we could do. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, so no one is blaming anyone here, okay? I think we need to, when we, I work with a small business all day long, okay? And some of them, they don't have time to go to a website, especially our website that is sometimes very difficult to navigate, or don't have time to, read tons of emails. So we need to determine what are the better channels of communication that we can use to outreach a small business owner. So I know that sometimes we say, oh, we have the information on the website, we send email. Yes, they are great. They are great efforts, but sometimes we need to say, what are the other channels that we can outreach those small business owners? And sometimes I think we need to, we should have an article in the Fitchburg Star for sure for the next month. We should talk to, I know that George, you do a great job, communicating with the Black Chamber, the Latino Chamber, and the Fitchburg Chamber, to disseminate the information. Maybe we should look at all our, we can use our Healthy Neighborhood Initiative partners, that they have a lot of people in the list to also disseminate this information too, so that's all, so.
I agree, Julia. And I do have a last question for Joyce and Mike. And that the website and those resources, is there any additional help for small businesses that, again, might want to apply for this loan, but might not have the capacity or the whole understanding of how this works because they never done it before, especially for minorities? Is there additional help of people who can help them through this process, or I'm wondering if not, that's okay. We can move to the next item. But yeah, I think doing outreach through the Healthy Neighborhood initiatives will be another great option. Thank you, Joyce and Mike.
I would just add, Norma, in response to your question there, that I know Joyce spent a lot of time with even the applications that we did get in the previous rounds, just answering questions and helping them kind of work through the application materials and the submittal of that as she, kind of put each of the loan application packages together for the loan review committee. So she did work with a lot of businesses to provide that assistance and kind of walk them through the process. And so we're always happy to help on that front.
All right. If there's no further discussion, we do have a motion before us to continue the program with the same parameters through the end of the year or until the funds have been exhausted. If there's no further discussion, have voting on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion is carried. All right, thank you. Item number 10 is the hotel room tax report considerations. I don't believe we have anything before us. Correct, Mike?
Correct. I would just give an overview, though, of the room tax collection that came in for the first quarter for 2021. Joyce had emailed out that updated report to you from Misty from the Finance Department. And as you can see, in 2021, first quarter, we collected $35,362. That compares to $74,051 in 2020. So we're down about 53% in the first quarter compared to last year. Previously, towards the end of last year, we were down over 60%. I think we were at 62 or 63%. So hopefully things in that industry is starting to emerge. We're starting to hear good things as far as the World Dairy Expo coming back, Ironman is coming back, CrossFit is coming back. So I think it'll continue to improve. And sitting in on some of the regional Destination Madison updates and everything, they're anticipating kind of 23, 24, where we start to get back to some 2019 levels for, I think, both average daily rates and occupancy there. So we've been sitting in on a lot of those meetings and discussions, as well as our tourism partner, Angela Kinderman from the Fitchburg Chamber Visitor Business Bureau. So we'll keep you posted on that as we continue to kind of monitor that industry and the business activity.
Thank you. I know it's pretty stark when you look at the report that Joyce sent out. I just remember thinking back in the Great Recession in 2009 and how we thought the world was ending with the room tax collections. You look at it now, it's just a little blip on the radar.
Yeah. One thing else I would add, Andy, is that staff is still operating and working with the finance department at a bare bones expenditure. Just the stress test that we did previously with CETA, where all discretionary items we've kind of put on hold until the room tax recovers, and it's just really our memberships in various organizations to kind of keep that continuity going. But sponsorships and those things are really going to be at a minimal level, and other activities until we see more of a recovery.
Okay. Were there any questions for Mike on the room tax report? Okay. Next item is the broadband update. I'll turn it over to Joyce.
No report.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. This is another one of Julia's requests, so I thought I might just bypass it. In an effort to work with our Ag and Rural Affairs Committee, we have put together an internal work group. It is Jeremy Crosby from Fact TV, Matt Pearl, our IT manager, myself, Wade Thompson, with planning and also Ag and Rural Affairs. He's a liaison. And Ann DeGarmo, our Dane County Supervisor, and Roger Cohey with Ag and Rural Affairs, and Randy Udell, who is also the council rep on Ag and Rural Affairs. So we have been talking about the issue of either access, affordability, or quality of broadband in our rural areas. So with all the discussions that are taking place at the national level about addressing the digital divide, we have been working internally to kind of come up with some ideas of ways that we can capitalize on some of the funding that's available, and then also to start planning for the future as far as technology goes. So our first goal is to send out a survey that we put together. It's actually just 2 very basic questions. We have the survey together. We have some input from the mayor, and I need to just send that out to our collective group and kind of finalize that. And then we also need to figure out funding for this survey. So that's where we're at with that. And then our group meets every other week. And at our next meeting, we are actually going to engage with MadRep. If you remember, Jason Fields was at our meeting a couple months ago and talked about some of the initiatives that they are working on. So we are going to be having a meeting with them to kind of get an update. They've engaged a business called Neo Networks, and so we are going to have a collective meeting and kind of tell them what we're up to, and then we're also going to have them tell us what they're working on. So in my spare time, that's what I've been working on, is that broadband initiative. Any questions? Hearing none, I'm hanging up.
When is gonna be the MAREP meeting?
Pardon me?
I know that there is a meeting with MAREP. When is gonna be the meeting?
June 4th.
Okay. Okay.
So I take it, since it sounds like so much of this is too early to actually be applying for funds, so just with the governor's announcement of the $100 million in broadband through the ARPA funds, that probably not something we'll be able to access, since I believe that application opens in about 4 days.
So Andy, we've been talking about this for probably the last, I don't know, 2-3 years of you know, our issues here in the city. One of the things that we've had some difficulty is just trying to get information on who's out there and what they're doing and what their plans are. And then also one of the things, I don't know, a few years back, Mike, Roger Cohey, Jeremy, and myself, we met with the FCC to talk about this. And at that time, one of our issues was matching funds. And, you know, we really need to figure out as a city a plan to move forward. And then also, you know, what our role is going to be as well. So we've got a lot of things that we have to sort out. But we're at least engaging in the conversation. So if there's any people out there, Dan Hardy, that maybe has poor service that would like to work with us, you know, feel free to do some outreach to me.
And Andy, I would just add anecdotally here that some of the challenges that we've had with the infotech or telecommunication companies and providers, it's even a challenge to get information from them on coverage of their service areas there. That's proprietary information, and they're not very willing to share that as far as in a public setting for their competitors. So I don't know if there's anything that through the state and the governor's office can help us as communities. I also know the last round of funding, I think that went out for broadband, went more to the actual telecom companies. And I've heard from folks that more of that money was just used to upgrade their existing infrastructure versus it really expanding the reach of broadband to underserved areas. So I'm not sure how this latest funding is structured, but if there could be more directed towards communities and other organizations as they work with these telecom companies to kind of really accomplish the goal of expanding the reach of broadband, not only in rural areas, but I know one thing we've talked about here internally, and I know Joyce has communicated to Wade, and I've had a conversation with him about, we also have underserved areas within our healthy neighborhoods and in the urban service areas. So it's not only access from a technology standpoint in the rural area, but maybe some technology deficiencies within existing neighborhoods or a cost access issue within existing neighborhoods too. So anything you can do to help keep some of those issues and challenges on the front burner, at the state and the administration and how the programs are being kind of structured, I think we would appreciate and be helpful. The other thing Joyce and I have talked about, and one of the reasons why we wanted to meet with Mad Rep, and I know Joyce is also in contact with the group that's been launched at Dane County now, that's going to be looking at broadband. We have more, what would I say, maybe leverage if it's not just a Fitchburg going to some of these telecom companies. If it would be a Dane County or kind of Mad Rep approaching these, we've got more power in numbers there and in potential customers and subscribers. So once we maybe have the survey and more of a plan, if we can kind of hitch our wagon to some of those entities, either at the county or the regional level, maybe we've got more opportunity to be successful in actually implementing that plan with working with specific telecom companies. Because Joyce and I even had a meeting with Spectrum a while back. They sent us this great, I think 10-page glossy marketing brochure about smart cities, and we were like, hey, sign us up. We'd love to work with you on this initiative. And they basically came to us and said, well, Fitchburg, if you can provide us with the dollars, we'd be happy to implement this for you. And we were kind of looking at it the opposite direction, where they were promoting smart cities and what they could offer, but they weren't bringing any resources forward to actually create a smart city.
And Mike, maybe you, Joyce, and I can kind of talk about what's out there. Just based on what I know of the $100 million that's currently on the table, it's not just focused on rural, it's really meant for unserved and underserved areas, in particular not on sort of building up on capacity that already exists, but to really expand the reach. And as well, I think there's a big emphasis on sort of the last mile connections as well. But certainly something we can have a continued conversation on that.
Thanks, Andy.
Andy, can I just mention one other thing since we're talking about this?
Yeah.
We, as far as broadband, there's one other consideration I think that we need to think about as not only just a committee, but as a nation, is having the actual proper tools to access broadband. It's kind of hard to go to school on a smartphone. So I think that's another thing that, we need to emphasize is, yes, there might be access, but if you don't have the proper tool to actually, and there's an assumption that everybody has Wi-Fi or that everybody has a computer, which a lot of times isn't the case. And I know Mike and I talk about this an awful lot, because how do you reach out to those communities? When we did the bus shelters, that was one of the things that we worked really hard on, is putting in the new bus shelters, at least in Fish Hatchery and in Target, there is a spot where we can actually put city announcements. because we thought, at least if we could put something up in the bus shelter, we might be reaching a few people. It may not be a great idea or option, but it's something. So that's one other issue that's out there that I think we need to really think about as well.
Okay. So in the interest of time, if there are no further discussions on this, we can move on to the Economic Development Director and Committee reports. Mike?
Thanks, Andy. First off, Monday, May 31st is Memorial Day, and we do have a Memorial Day observance planned here in Fitchburg. That will be at 1 o'clock on Monday at the Robert Schley Memorial, Gorman Wayside, out at 2377 South Fish Hatchery Road. So you're all invited and welcome to participate in that. If you're coming to that event, we're doing a little bit different because of still being under some COVID protocols here. You should please bring a lawn chair with you and still kind of socially distance and everything out there. Fact TV will be streaming the event live, so you can also participate and watch via Fact TV. Our speaker this year is Jana Woodhouse, who served in the Navy, and her theme is sacrifice. So again, this is one of those annual events. The posts are participating. The Brooklyn, Oregon VFW post will be providing kind of the service again. Do I have that right, Joyce? The post?
It's the
Brooklyn, Oregon American Legion. And Oregon Brooklyn VFW. So we've got two different groups that'll be helping us out again this year. Okay. Then just some development updates for you. If you've been on Fish Hatchery Road lately, Starbucks is open in the Park Bank building and doing a robust business there. The drive-throughs always seems to be queued up and full as I go by there. Park Bank is looking to occupy the building, hopefully sometime in July. I think that keeps getting pushed back, kind of following up on Mark Hamilton's earlier comment, just with some building material supplies that have been delayed. So the opening keeps getting pushed back as they kind of finish the build out of that building. But that's looking nice up there on the corner. And then we've got the Terrace Point Apartments, which is the project that Adventure Capital is doing on the former juice plant site. They've got occupancy starting here in June. I got a really good report from them when I met with them last week that occupancy or leasing activity is already at like 60 to 70% there. So they're pleasantly surprised at how strong the leasing activity is for that property as they continue to lease up on Fish Hatchery Road. Then Encompass Health, which is the rehabilitation hospital that is planning the project on the lot south of Nobel Drive at Fish Hatchery Road on lots 25 and 26. They got their approvals at the council meeting on Tuesday night, so that project will be going forward. That's kind of 40-bed, 43,000 square feet in the first phase, expanded up to 80 beds, about 73,000 with the complete project there. Council on Tuesday night also approved the ordinance change for Smart Code to add a special District 3 category to allow the senior housing development in the Terra Vesta neighborhood to move forward. That would be by Marquardt Development, and it will be called River Song. So we just needed to work through. They were meeting the T5 requirements and Smart Code above ground, but there were just some technical issues below ground with utilities and the requirements. So our planning staff came up with a way to kind of make those requirements work for this particular project. So you'll see that one continue to move forward. We also had a neighborhood meeting about 2 weeks ago on lots 53 and 54 on the west side of McKee Farms Park by another senior housing group called Andev Development that's proposing an assisted living and memory care facility over there on those lots. It was a well-attended neighborhood meeting. Julia and Gabriella, the alders for the district, were there, also Council President Randy Udell and the mayor and I. And so they'll be probably winding their way through That property is still zoned medium-density residential, so they'll need to come forward either with the PDD process or for high-density residential for the senior housing on that lot. They're working with our planning staff and probably will submit in June for starting that process in the July Plan Commission meeting. We're waiting to hear from the theaters yet. They still have indicated that they're planning to open in June, but we're trying to get a specific date from them on when AMC will be reopening the theaters. And then the Fawside property, which is the clean fill site between Highway 14 and MM. Royal Capital Group, you might remember that's the group that we worked with on the renovation for the Maple Lawn Apartments up on Greenway Cross and Fish Hatchery back in their Pike Drive. They have an option on the Fawside property, and we've got a meeting scheduled with them next week to kind of hear their concepts and ideas for that property. You might remember that's where previously Randy Alexander was proposing the At Edge Live Work project that didn't move forward, and we've got a TID district open there, kind of waiting for a project to happen. That's TID district number 11. So I'll keep you posted as we learn more from Royal Capital. We continue to field inquiries on the iHeart property here at Fish Hatchery Road and Lacey Road. They did drop the price on that listing. It's now listed for $5.5 million for that, I think, just shy of 14 acres at that site. Just a reminder on that property in the future land use plan, it's identified for low density residential. So anything that would happen beyond that use would need a minor comp plan amendment going forward. So some developers are taking a look at the property, but what we've guided them and suggested to them is that they really do some neighborhood outreach prior to any comp plan amendment coming forward to see what level of support is out there for their potential development concepts. So we'll keep you posted on that process going forward. We've got just some recent information in a group looking at development ideas for the Hartung property. That's relatively new information there. So just starting some conversations with them as I learn more. I'll keep you updated as we have those conversations with that particular group. Housing starts continue to be robust. Here I know the building inspection department, single family permits continue to come in. Multifamily construction, we get calls all the time from developers looking to do apartments. The message we keep conveying, not only from our housing plan, but from our elected officials, is that we're really looking for a balance of ownership to rental units there. That doesn't mean that they necessarily, from an ownership standpoint, have to be single family, but we definitely want kind of that healthy balance of ownership and rental with some of these new projects coming forward and in the various neighborhoods throughout the city. Most of the inquiries we've been getting on the development front lately have been some things working with smaller science and tech companies as we kind of emerge from COVID here. That still seems to be healthy and robust. Also, a lot of calls and inquiries on warehouse distribution and where do we have spots in Fitchburg for that as companies kind of adjust to all of us shopping online and wanting, of course, things to be delivered either the same day or the next day. I think they're distributing their distribution centers even more geographically here to kind of accommodate those delivery needs that we all have as customers. So we're trying to figure out where are the right spots in Fitchburg that make sense specifically. We don't necessarily have a lot of land zoned in that industrial general category for those types of uses, so we're kind of being strategic about that and figuring out where that makes the most sense. The other thing is the council on Tuesday night did approve the cross-section for the Lacey Road reconstruction. So that'll move to the next step now, which is the transportation project plat, which eventually would lead to the acquiring the necessary easements and then hopefully going out for bid in November of this year. So that way we can get that project reconstructed in 2022. There will probably be some processes started for the for the Seminole and Lacey intersection, which will also be part of that project for the design going forward. So we just had a meeting yesterday talking about that process to figure out if that's going to be a roundabout or a signalized intersection there. And then once that decision is kind of made, then there will be a design contract that'll be brought forward by Public Works for the council to consider. The Payne and Dolan subdivision that is proposed for the south side of Lacey Road at Fitchburg, that got postponed at the Plan Commission. They just need to do some work on some technical issues related to access off of Lacey Road and some grades and slope issues there, and also some things with access to the parkland that was envisioned and the frontage of the parkland, street frontage of there. And then another update for you is the Richardson property that was listed south of Lacey Road that's included in the South Stoner Prairie Future Urban Growth Area, was acquired by Yahara Materials. So we're not sure exactly what their intent is for that property, but I reached out to them, and we've got a meeting scheduled with them next week, Wednesday, to learn more about what they're planning to do with the property, and hopefully for us to share that we have been kind of waiting to see who is acquiring that property to jumpstart some conversations about launching the neighborhood plan process that would be needed for the South Stoner Prairie neighborhood, because that area, again, is outside the urban service area. We would have to go through a neighborhood planning process first, and then ultimately that would lead to a CARPC application for an urban service area amendment request. So that's probably a 2 to 3 year process there. So I'll keep you posted at the next meeting as far as what we hear from Yahara Materials on what their plans are for that property. And then our conversations are continuing well with Edgewood College for the 40 acres where they want to consolidate their athletic fields. That would be west of the natural gas station south of Lacey Road there on the O'Brien property. And the two conditions in order for them to move forward with drafting the application for a CARPC urban service area extension for that 40 acres was that they had to show evidence of gravity flow sewer, and then that the regional stormwater analysis needed to be complete. The city has completed the analysis, and we have recommendations that have been brought forward to the council as far as the implementation of those recommendations for stormwater, so we can check that box. And then our Public Works Department has shared some technical information with the engineers for Edgewood, and now they're going to be working on just providing us the detail to show evidence of gravity flow sewer, and then they will be starting that draft application process, working in collaboration with our planning department that would ultimately lead forward in a urban service area application request for consideration by CARPC. So that seems to be progressing well. One other space that we're getting inquiries on are some additional kind of, what would I call them, adult beverage establishments or production facilities. Yeah, kind of that category in space. We've had a couple of inquiries from different entities there. So Joyce and I have been working, trying to find where are some sites and options for those folks to locate in Fitchburg. So as those progress, we'll keep you filled in on the progress of those. I think that's all that I have to report. Oh, one last thing, the postal contract station. We're continuing to work with John, who's the current operator. He's winding down, but he is the one that has the current agreement for the postal contract station. So until he either kind of transfers that contract station to another entity and operator, or gives it up completely, which then would lead the postal contract station to go through a full-blown RFP process. The postal station continues to remain open and operating, so please keep patronizing that and using it. We're hoping that John can find an operator that he will transfer the contract station to, because then we can kind of keep it as continuous operations and not necessarily have to shut it down and go through a full-blown RFP process. If in the end we have to go the RFP process, the Postal Service has indicated they definitely want to work with us to keep that contract station somewhere here in Fitchburg. But they offered us that transfer option first. They're being very creative, working with us to even offer that option. But we're staying in regular communication with John, and he's giving us updates. But for the general public and everybody, keep patronizing that contract station. Any questions?
Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Mike. All right, Item number 13 are announcements. Our next scheduled meeting is June 24th. And seeing nothing further, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.